Hello, everyone. This is Jamie Diaz with Barks to Basics. I have a very special guest that I've been harassing to get on here. Lauren Nichols is the founder of Moss Creek Doodles. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
How are you? Quick plug before we start. If you have not bought my book yet, Dog Training Made Simple. If you have a dog, if you're getting a dog, if you have 5 dogs, it's for everybody. So please get that Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever. I was going to say wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you buy your books. But hi, Lauren, I'm so excited to have you here. So every time I mention breeders or anything like that, they get a bad rap, not you, but I think because, everybody wants to rescue and all of these things. And, I almost felt the same way years ago before I had kids. And then once I had kids, although we did get a rescue since I've had kids, but once I had kids, I want to be pretty sure that what I'm getting. And I want certain things in my dogs. And my next dog is definitely going to be from you. And Moss Creek Doodles, I've trained so many of your dogs and continue to train so many dogs. They are all wonderful. And I know there's a whole process that you go through, and I want to get to that. But first, I kind of want to know, how did this start and what kind of operation are you running now? I was just asking you, how many puppies do you have? You're like, lots. I'm like, oh my gosh, my head's spinning. So how did this all start?
Yeah, so I had allergies as a kid, and I just loved golden retrievers. They were my favorite thing in the whole world. And so when we went to get a family dog, some people were breeding Labradoodles, but nobody was really doing Goldendoodles at that point. So we ended up talking to a golden retriever breeder, and we begged and pleaded and convinced her to breed a litter of Goldendoodles so that we could have a puppy. And she was amazing. She was everything that we dreamed she would be, but she was fully dysplastic and needed a total hip replacement by the time she was 1. And so I'm an only child, and my mom and I kind of put our heads together and thought we could do this a lot better. We could make sure that they are sound of mind and body, and so that they are set up for success for the next 10 or 15 years. And we can have these dogs, but they're not, set up for a disadvantage as far as their health goes. So that's kind of been our strategy since day one. And now it's really grown. We've put things in place over the years as far as our temperament testing and our early neurological stimulation and things to really build on our program and make it the best that it can be. And so we're proud of where we are now.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I always tell people that are going to a quote breeder, because as we all know, there are a ton of backyard breeders. There are breeders that supposedly sell to puppy stores and all of that. So I think it's so important to find a good breeder. You are based in Florida, which I love. But when I go on your site, I do need a little bit of education. First of all, I think Goldendoodles, or when you say the word doodle, they get a bad rap because I have met the crazy doodles and I know exactly what people are talking about, but those are not your dogs at all. But when you go on there, or even on your Instagram, and which I love, and I want every single puppy on there, but there's F this, F that, not the curse word F, the letter for what is all that? How do I decipher what I'm looking for? If I want a doodle from you, what am I looking for with all those letters?
So it feels almost like a genetics lesson that nobody really wants when they're going to look for a pet. Yeah. And so that's where finding a good breeder who doesn't mind to educate, because you're also partially a teacher whenever you're a breeder, because you want to really educate people about why you're doing what you're doing and, the choices that they're making when it comes to a puppy, because a lot of families just don't really know. So anyway, an F1 is the first cross. So the 1 just means the first cross, and it's between the golden and the poodle.
Okay.
And then B, so F1B means back cross. And usually with Goldendoodles, we're back crossing to a poodle to improve the coat of the dog. So making them more hypoallergenic, or if it's important that the dog not shed a single hair, sometimes in a healthcare setting, if they're going in to be therapy dogs, in a hospital, then we sometimes recommend an F1B in that setting, because their coats have even more poodle in there. But normally an F1 is going to meet the needs of most of our families for the most part.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. I had no idea, literally. Now, as far as, because I know you see the toys and the teacups and all these tiny, so those are not usually what you breed. What is your typical like weights of the dogs that you do breed?
So for me, the reason why I don't breed as many of the smaller size is because temperament is always sort of at the forefront of my mind. And so when people think Goldendoodles, we're thinking like relaxed and go with the flow, a good family dog who's pretty level-headed, who likes to participate in all the family activities, and probably not like the nervous, kind of yappy kind of reputation that some like smaller dogs have. So most of our dogs fall into like the medium or the standard size. So 35 pounds and larger. Like our medium is usually 35 to 45 pounds, and our standard size dogs are more like 45 pounds and up. But we do sometimes have the small size, and they're more that like traditional mini size. I just breed far fewer of them because I need them to still be the right temperament. Yeah.
I think that's so important because I use this line all the time that you can't train temperament, right? All the obedience stuff is if your dog jumps, if you like, I can train all of that, but you can't train temperament. I got one of my dogs, Ritz. He's like the last of the Mohicans left of my pack that I had. I had 5 dogs. He's 16, but I had originally got him, told my husband, let me get my 3rd dog because I want him to be a therapy dog. And of course I didn't check temperament, nothing. I went by purely looks and the breeds that I wanted. And he was scared of kids. He bit my niece. It was like a whole thing. So the temperament, I obviously got him used to kids in the right way, and you can train that way, but he wasn't the temperament I needed. And my last rescue that we got, Finley, that's what I said. I said, he needs to be good with kids. He needs to be good with dogs. He needs to be good in a crate. He needs to be good in the car. Like he has to have all these things. So how do you test for temperament now? And I'm going to have Jennifer on here, but Jennifer does Paws of Love, which is an amazing organization that donates puppies to people affected by gun violence. And you help her and, supply those puppies for her. And I know a lot of the times, people just like us have different temperaments and have different needs. And you're always so good about picking, I think this one's going to be perfect for this person because X, Y, and Z. What do you do for temperament? Is it just from doing this so long? Are there tests that you do? Like what is that all about? How do you determine these temperaments of these puppies when they're so young?
Yeah. So we have everybody wait to choose until the puppies are like 6 or 7 weeks old. And I think that's really important because whenever they are like just newborns with their eyes closed and you're kind of choosing based on color or what you think they might grow up to be like, that's tricky for most families. So we really kind of delay that choosing process until later. But we have gotten better at it. We've been at it for like 22 years now.
Wow.
So over the years, we've gotten, a lot better at it. But we do temperament test them officially with an outside trainer whenever they're 6 weeks old. And that gives us almost like this sense of when you send your kid to school, how they're kind of different with a teacher. That's what we're getting from the trainer, because I try not to bias her in what she's going to say about them, because I usually have my favorites and what I think about them, but I just let her come in and tell me what she thinks. And usually that combined with us just being around them all day, every day, and seeing kind of how they interact with the world, and if anything throws them for a loop and all of that stuff, it really helps us to match puppies with the right families.
I think that's so smart that you wait, because there's been, and again, I'm not saying that they're bad breeders, but there's been so many times that people just know they want a girl or a boy, right? So you have the litter, and then the breeder calls them. We got 4 boys and 4 girls, and you have the first pick. I want the black, girl, whatever it is, and you literally know nothing about how that puppy is going to be yet. So the fact that you wait until about 6 weeks to do that, and I love the fact that you use a trainer to do that, because I always tell people, and people have hired me to do this, to go with them. Like, I'm like, I will come with you. Like if they get to pick, from the litter or from a shelter or from whatever, let me help you determine what their temperament is. I'm like, this one's might not be good with other dogs. I've gone with friends before and I'm like, I don't think this is what you're looking for. He's going to be super hyper. He's going to be, whatever it is. So the fact that you not only yourself and your team evaluates that you have an outsider look at that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you kind of did it that way. So I love that you do that. And do they stay with her? Does she spend what does that look like when she evaluates?
So it depends on the puppies. From spending lots of time with puppies, they're like toddlers. So they play really hard, or you have their attention for like an hour and then they crash. And so sometimes we'll be doing the temperament testing process and everybody's asleep on the floor and we're like, wake up. And so if that's the case, a lot of times it'll bleed over into the next day and we just start again tomorrow when they're fresh, because also we don't have puppies who usually just bounce off the walls and will go for hours either. So it definitely, but our process is kind of trust based. Like families put a lot of trust in us to help them to choose the right puppy. So I take that seriously. And so if I am recommending a puppy, I want to be sure as much as you can possibly be sure that puppy's a good fit for them. So it's just part of how we're thorough.
I love that. And I think that's so important, especially when you're looking for a breeder, a good breed, or whatever the breed is. What do you think, what role at least in your house, does early socialization play in your breeding program? Because I know I'm like huge about, obviously in a safe way, we're not going to dog parks, we're not doing any of that, but there's a lot of things that you can do. So what types of things do these puppies see before they go to their forever home?
So it starts like literally before their eyes are open, before their ears are open. We have like an early neurological stimulation protocol that just exposes them to different like sensations, and we kind of turn them upside down and hold them for a little while. And we're just intentional about how we're doing those things. And then we have like a scent exposure protocol, because a lot of our puppies do go on to do service work and things like that. So kind of activating those senses early and getting them kind of thinking about like, what is that, is important. Wow. And then as they grow, we're playing like sound CDs, and we're just intentional about like, it's almost like a human baby. Whenever some families kind of have the philosophy of like, no, don't run the vacuum cleaner, it'll scare the baby. And with puppies, we have that window in the beginning where we can kind of flip that upside down and say, no, we're going to run the vacuum cleaner and we're going to like have loud noises and we're going to run around and dance with the kids just like we ordinarily would. And there might be times where a puppy is thrown a little bit for a loop, but we have all the supports here where as a family, after the puppy goes home, they don't have mom and they don't have like the environment that the puppy grew up in to help them feel secure. We have all of that here. So we can really have a unique position to set them up to not be scared of the world later.
I mean, I think that is so important. I always, we talk about socialization and I always say 8 to 16 weeks, but it really is 3 to, like you said, before their eyes. I mean, it really is as early as 2-3 weeks, like from the beginning that you're doing these things. So the fact that, and I don't even know if people would know to ask that, like, what do you do? Don't. Right. What are you doing for early socialization? Because by the time, so what age do you usually like to adopt the puppies out? Is it 8 weeks? Do you do not? What is typical?
Usually between 8 and 9 weeks is when they're going home.
So by that time, like a lot of things can have already occurred or not occurred. So these puppies that if people are getting them from a breeder, and obviously, rescue is a completely different kind of animal, no pun intended, because they've gone through all this experience if they're older already, where you're from a breeder, you're starting that young. But if it's not a good breeder, you can still have these issues. So the fact that you do that, even with the smells and everything, I mean, it's truly amazing and unique from what I've ever heard from breeders. I've actually never wanted a golden doodle until I met you and your doodles, to be honest. And now this is like our next dog is coming from you, is coming from a reputable breeder that we know and we love, and I just love what you do. After people get these dogs, how do you support them in the home? Like, what kind of support do you give? So it's 8 weeks old, I get my puppy. So what typically happens from there? And then also on the flip side, because I also know you've helped with this, what happens if it's not a right fit? What happens in those situations? So let's start first with the puppy goes home at 8 weeks. Are they like, all right, bye, Lauren, they don't see you, or what happens from there?
Right. I always joke with families that, like, okay, so whenever the puppies are born, we send pictures weekly and let everybody know how they're doing and send updates. And then they go home, and I feel like I'm the one waiting for those updates. I'm the one that's like, how are they doing today?
Yes.
Because it's weird when they just like all leave and it's an empty house. But it starts way before they go home, because I am well aware of the fact that most of the time after people see like the cute fluffy puppy, they don't hear anything else that I say. So I try to really send things home ahead, like just tips as far as how to socialize this puppy after you get them home. Like, I give them a checklist of, we need people with hats. We need to meet the delivery driver. We need to meet the mailman, and kind of a checklist of things to go through, of what to do after we send the puppy home, and schedules and things like that.
I love that.
I think I can't overstate how important it is to know that your breeder is going to pick up the phone when you call them after the puppy goes home, because that's so important. Because I've gotten phone calls 10 years later of like, my senior dog is having trouble walking. What do I do? Or it's just important to keep those lines of communication as far as family history open too, because by that point, the parents are also quite old. So I can share with families like what's happened with mom and dad into their golden years and things like that. So just that open dialogue of, please call me. Like, I literally put my phone number on the puppy's collar when they go home. Please call me if anything comes up, because I've got you. Like, we can walk you through how to get them to sleep overnight, or why they're peeing on your rug, or all of that stuff kind of falls under my umbrella. How to find a good trainer who's going to give you good advice. That's why I send everybody to you.
I love that. And thank you.
There's a lot of bad advice out there too. So it really does fall on the breeder to help kind of be that teacher and make sure they get in the right place. And then if things go wrong, like life happens, and sometimes families just can't keep their puppy, it's important to know that your breeder will always take them back. So I feel like I'm responsible for them forever. We brought them into the world, and we're the reason why they're here. So it's important that if they need a place to go, I'm that place. And then we can go about placing them in their next home properly, and we never lose track of them.
I love that. And I've seen, I know you've adopted out like older dogs, and it actually winds up being like an even better fit for the next family, right? So I think sometimes people don't know what they're getting. I'm sure you prepare them, but getting a puppy is a lot. You're pretty much having another baby. So you need a lot of support. So the fact that you're there to support, and I know, like you're saying, pick up the phone, your breeder. I know so many dog owners that something's gone wrong with, they find out, I got a dog from a breeder, is a Lhasa Apso, and he was born with a bad kidney. It was like my heart dog, of course, and it was genetics, right? So he was diagnosed at 1 year old. He only had, they said less than a year to live, but he wound up living till 5. So I got some more years. But I called the breeder, and I had to keep calling and I was just calling to tell them. They finally, I think maybe through email, like they finally answered, and I was like, I just want to let you know this is happening with my dog. And if it's happening with my dog, I want to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. And for them to like to be able to get in touch with them. They obviously weren't a good breeder. So the fact that if there is something wrong, they can reach out to you at any time. I think that's so important. And you were talking about training and all of these things. I know you do have a board and train program. Yeah. So if somebody gets a puppy from you, what are their options as far as, I know everybody wants a little puppy home, but I've had people bring them right from the breeder to my house because I'm like, give me 2 weeks and I'll handle all the hard stuff. And some people may want to do that with you. So what are their options that they have as far as like the board and train that you have?
So we joke and say it's boot camp. My husband is former military and he's like, this is not boot camp because we're kind to them. Like it's all positive reinforcement training. It's nothing crazy, but it's really just kind of building their confidence in what they're supposed to be doing when they're little and setting that like foundation of training. Because I feel like the more we're telling them like, yes, that was right. Keep doing that, please. The more they're like, I'm so good. And they really want to please their people. So I don't have to tell you, but, so it's foundation training, learning how to ring a bell to let you know that they need to go outside. It's walking on a loose leash. It's basic commands and just kind of teaching the puppy some English words so that whenever they go home to their family, they're kind of already on that family schedule and the family knows how to reason with them and they just have an easier time.
I love that. I think it's important and it's a good option for people to know that it is out there and also that it is all positive reinforcement, force free, because there are a lot of these boarding places that it's not the case. And the fact that, I mean, I feel like people just listening to you or you can tell you're just a kind soul, you know, you just tell you can really care about these animals. So, but I just wanted to mention that because if people do want that kind of training option and don't want to do that extra work, that you do offer that as part of your program. What do you think what are the hallmarks of a reputable breeder, do you think? Now, I am sure you've had horror stories when people call you and, you know, people probably have PTSD from like using a breeder that wasn't a good breeder and horrible things happened. Like somebody's calling to ask these questions and you've already answered some of them, but what do you think it consists of a reputable breeder? So I say, I don't want a doodle, right? I don't want a golden doodle. What should they be asking the breeder? What are some main things?
I feel like the biggest red flag that I have ever heard from all of my years of like talking to families is if you feel pressured, like if the breeder is like, no, send me the deposit, do this right now, you're going to lose out. Or they won't even sometimes talk to you before you send them money. Like that's not somebody you want to be working with. I tell people all the time, fill out the application and we'll do the interview process because I don't know if I want to give you a puppy when you fill out the application. It's both ways. So having that open dialogue and having somebody who's really open to all of the questions and answers that come with looking for a puppy, because I want my puppy parents to be educated about why they're choosing me too. So things like, how are you raising the puppies? Where are the puppies? Like what testing are you doing for the breeding dogs? Because health testing is so important. All of those things should be things that a breeder is jumping to answer. They want to tell you why you're choosing them. So if you're getting pushback and pressure whenever you start asking these questions, that's a big red flag because they might be less likely to pick up the phone later and things like that too.
And I've heard that too, that like you said, this is the last girl. If you want, you know, the last female, if you want a female, you got to put down the deposit. And that's so true. I didn't even think of that. Yes, they obviously want to sell their puppies, but a good breeder is going to care. Like you said, do I want to give you a puppy? What kind, you know, what kind of home is this puppy going to go into? So I think that's super important. The other thing I was going to ask you too is, what is, and I don't need to know like exactly like in your contract as far as like spay and neuter. So I'll tell you obviously we want all the dogs spayed and neuter. What is your policy? What are your beliefs in that? And the other thing is, I don't know, some breeders for like certain breeds like put in their contract that they cannot be neutered till like 2 or 3 years old, and I understand the body developing and stuff, but some of these dogs are having like major humping, marking, like these issues, and I'm like, there's only certain things that neutering will help, and usually it's the marking, it's, you know, the humping, it's being able to think more, and it does annoy me a little bit that you have to wait 3 years until you neuter your dog. What is your policy and your thoughts on that as far as neutering and spaying?
Ever since we started, I've recommended spaying and neutering somewhere between like 6 and 7 months. And I feel like I've never had a family regret that. I've had them regret waiting. Like we're reasonable. So if your vet is telling you, absolutely not, we need to wait, like with a letter from the vet, I don't mind being reasonable and doing the best thing for the dog. But I've had families regret waiting, and they call me and they say, if you have anybody else in this position, please call me and tell them to call me, because I'll tell them that this was way harder than I expected it to be. Because you're right, you can't turn back the clock and kind of undo some of those like testosterone driven behaviors, or people don't realize that happens with girls too. You get all those hormones going, and it can definitely change the game as far as like what their personality is like. And whenever you take all those hormones away, sometimes that does improve and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's really hard to turn back the clock.
Yeah, I love that answer. And I'm the same. I usually say, you know, listen to your vet. But for me personally, I've always done my dogs at 6 months. I've never had an issue with anything, never marking, anything like that. And just from having my training schools, and the puppies start and they're great and they're so smart and they're listening. And then all of a sudden it's like 6 months, especially the boys. And we literally cannot get them to do anything in group but hump, and they will not listen to anything. And the parents are saying I'm like, because he's becoming mature and the testosterone and everything. And it's so crazy as soon as they do the neuter. And I usually say, listen, if your vet's okay with it, I would do it sooner than later. And as soon as they do it, the dog, it's like back into, you know, and like you said, it doesn't necessarily change. I know people get nervous. It's going to like change their personality. The dog, if you have a crazy dog, don't worry, they'll still be crazy. It's not going to do that. But I think it's important that I love that you obviously give the leeway. And if you want to wait a little bit and the vet says to wait, but I am a strong, and a lot of my veterinarian friends are also on the same page, girls and boys. I know there was research like to wait for the first heat and not wait for the first heat, but most of my veterinarian friends that I'm close with, they all say do it before, you know, that first heat. And again, I'm not a doctor, and I know you're not either, but I was just curious on that because some breeders, the language in their contracts are so tense.
It's strong.
Strong is a better word. That I just wanted, I didn't think that you had that. I know they have to get them spayed or neutered. That's in the contract, correct? We want the dog spayed and neutered. So how many, okay, I want to get what is the best thing to do? So I decided after listening to this that, and by the way, anybody who is listening that has never wanted a golden doodle before, you have to check out Lauren's puppies and her dogs. And I am telling you, I have not met one that their temperament was not amazing. And so I decided from listening to this podcast that I am going to get a golden doodle from Lauren. What should be their first step to do?
The best thing is just to go to our website and fill out the puppy application. And then either my husband or I are going to be the ones that give you a call. And it says we're going to interview you, but it's like just having a conversation. It's literally just like getting an idea of the things that are on your wish list when it comes to a dog. And like, if you could describe your perfect dog, what does that look like? Because that really helps us know like if a golden doodle in general is going to be a good fit for you. And then if one of our puppies is going to be a better fit than others, we really just kind of dive into everything that you kind of are dreaming about. But it's not like a super scary official interview process, but that's the best way to get it started.
Okay.
And then we can help you plan for later too.
And what's the website?
www.mcdoodles.com. So mcdoodles.com.
It's MC Doodles. So Moss Creek Doodles, but it's mcdoodles.com. And if anybody is interested in seeing amazing pics of these like puppies and litters and everything. And by the way, again, you may see one that's super cute that you like love, but Lauren will also, they are the experts at saying he's a little bit shyer. He's this, he's that. Like you said, after the interview, you'll be able to tell. But I think that's such an important thing for owners looking for a good puppy is that let you guys kind of give your feedback the best that you can, because it's so important. But what is so you're on Instagram and Facebook?
We are, yeah.
And what is it under Moss Creek Doodles?
Yes, everything's under Moss Creek Doodles. We're pretty easy to find.
Okay, so if you guys go on social media, Moss Creek Doodles, I follow them everywhere. I was just telling Lauren before, my sister and I constantly, if there's like one, she'll send it to me. She's like, you need to go get this one now. And then we'll see like, siblings. I'm like, I'll take this one, you'll take that one. So eventually we will both be getting a puppy, but you can find Lauren, Moss Creek Doodles, mcdoodles.com. Check out all of her stuff. It's amazing. And not only for the doodles, but I hope you guys also listen to this and educate yourself on a good breeder, because I have been in this business a very long time. And Lauren, you are at the top of my list of people to refer, because you're one of the best breeders that I've met. And I'm not just saying that, I truly believe that, which is why I always tell people, even if they don't want to doodle, you will after they see your dogs. And I know you're like crazy busy. She, by the way, has a lot of puppies. Is there a season for puppies, or you kind of always have new puppies?
We always have puppies.
Okay.
It's our life.
Okay.
We're in the baby stage all the time.
I love that. So there's always, because sometimes you call and they're like, you have to wait until December. You have to wait in here. I mean, you have a full operation. And really quick before we go, I do want to mention your event that you do every year, because it's amazing. Can you just talk about that, what you have every year? Because if you see the picture of how many doodles, we'll explain the event and how many people came last year.
You have to come this year. This year it's going to be March 7th.
Okay.
Every year, the first weekend in March, we have a family reunion, and we invite everybody who's ever gotten a dog from us for the past 22 years. Even if their dogs have passed away, they're still invited to come. And it literally is a family reunion. Like, we all meet at this really amazing wedding venue. It's a chapel barn with a big fenced-in pasture, and we take over and we do like a catered lunch, and everybody plays with their dogs. So this past year it was close to 300 dogs, and then all of their people.
Wow.
And we do goodie bags for everybody, and we have prizes like the best trick or the fastest recall and things like that, and a raffle. It's just a lot of fun. And so everybody brings their kids, and it's our chance to see everybody too. It's like Christmas for my kids.
I'm coming. I have nothing on the past 2 years. I literally had a wedding, and then it might have been spring. I don't know, but there's no spring break or anything. I am coming. Oh, it was my daughter's gymnastics competition.
You're going to come, and then you're going to call me after, and
yes.
You're going to want a puppy.
Yeah. I'm going to. So I am, put me down. I am coming, and I'll bring the family. Lauren, thank you so much. I so appreciate you coming on. I literally harassed her until she said yes and came on, because she's so busy. So I do appreciate your time, and I can't wait to get my puppy, and hopefully a lot of people will be calling because of this, but thank you for doing an amazing job. Again, Jamie Diaz, Barks to Basics. So call Lauren, Moss Creek Doodles. You can listen to this anywhere where podcasts are heard: Audible, Spotify, Apple Music. And don't forget, buy the book, Dog Training Made Simple. And we will see you next time. Thank you.